Taking you live to a flood update now.
And that's a phenomenal effort. I think it's a great debt of gratitude that we as a state owe these amazing volunteers and have been there supporting communities, supporting people, making sure that everybody is as safe as possible and also getting messages out to the community. As we've seen earlier in the week, we had some heavy rain down around the south coast of New South Wales, and then it sent it in over the last couple of days around the metro area. In particular, one of the areas that we're paying close attention to at the moment is around the Hawkesbury. I'm joined, of course, by Acting Commissioner Deb Platts, as well as from Water New South Wales, Mr Andrew George, who will also make a contribution, and Deb will give an update, particularly on operational thing. As it really comes down to it, we haven't had as much, say, wet weather as what we might think is a major incident, but the fact of the matter is our dams are full, our waterways are full, our grounds are saturated. So the impact of the rain that we're having at any given time is having a much more profound effect. And as a result of that, we've invoked a number of warnings, evacuation warnings, areas that have been evacuated. There's also been an evacuation centre that was set up in Richmond and also evacuation centres for animals, given that there are some rural areas here that will be impacted. I again encourage people to have a look and make sure that they're constantly checking the Hazards Near Me app. The Hazards Near Me app can be updated really quickly, and the SES are working around the clock to keep people informed. You can set that up to give you notifications for your local area, and it lets you know what the current situation is. I am pleased that the community has responded to the SES and to their warnings and to their advice. And when they were told to prepare to leave, they did make that preparation. When people were told to evacuate, they did do that. Obviously, there's been some impacts around roads and around bridges, but I'm very, very happy to say that what we have learned over periods of time is that everything that happens, we look at how we can do it better. So from earlier this week, the State Emergency Services already started to deploy assets, started to get the units to be stood up and made sure that they got the messages out to the community to be as prepared as possible. In addition to that, they did some door knocking and they also communicated with local community groups to ensure that the messages can get out. There have been over 234 incidents that they've responded to in the past 24 hours, and 13 of those have been flood rescues. So whilst I'm incredibly grateful for the community who is following the instructions of the SES, who is putting their safety first, I still am disappointed in the number of rescues that we have to perform because people make some decisions to drive through flooded waters. Please, again and again, do not drive through flooded waters. What you are doing is you're putting yourself at risk, in danger, but you're also doing that to the volunteers and to those who are to rescue you. I couldn't say it clearly enough. Please do not drive through flooded waters because you're putting yourself and others at risk. I do appreciate you following the instructions of the SES, following their advice, but this is one that we all need to do. And I want to conclude again by thanking our amazing State Emergency Services and our volunteers, of which over 2,000 have been giving up their time this week because they believe in something bigger than themselves, and it's in giving back to the community. I'm just going to hand over to Acting Commissioner Debbie Platts, who will take us through some of the operational impacts of what's been happening over the past week. Sorry, Deb.
Thanks, Minister, and good morning. Can I also start by firstly thanking the wonderful, amazing, incredible volunteers that we have in the New South Wales SES. Since we started monitoring this event earlier this week, and then when the event actually started with the significant rainfall on Tuesday afternoon, we've had over 850 incidences that our volunteers have had to attend to, primarily in the Sydney metropolitan area and also the Illawarra coast. As the Minister mentioned, over 2,100 volunteers have been out there actively and helping the community right across metropolitan New South Wales and the Illawarra coast. The weather has been contracting, and today most of New South Wales you will see only limited amounts of rainfall. But that does not mean that the risk is not there, because what we are going to see now is riverine flooding in many areas, particularly in the west of Sydney. And this will continue predominantly throughout today and hopefully will ease later this afternoon and into tomorrow. So despite the fact that there are blue skies, we really need people to actually understand where they are going, what routes are actually open, and when they see flooded waters, that you do not drive in those waters. The SES currently has 44 warnings in place. 12 of those are emergency orders for people in low-lying areas, particularly in the Hawkesbury Nepean area, to evacuate. If people are not evacuating, then we're asking them to please be prepared for many days of isolation. We also have 21 Watch and Act alerts and warnings out there, and people should either use the Hazards Near Me app, but if you haven't downloaded that app, then you can see these warnings on the SES website. Please, as I mentioned, make sure you keep yourselves and your families safe. It's incredibly important. The poor decisions that people make by driving into flooded waters is putting our SES volunteers at risk and impacting communities right across the metropolitan area. So the flood warnings that we have in place at the moment are all minor to moderate, and they impact the Hawkesbury Nepean rivers, the Cooks River, Warrenora River, Shoalhaven River, St George's Basin and Hastings River. The Hawkesbury River at North Richmond is currently at moderate flood levels, and we do not expect that that will rise much higher, so there will be no impact to the Windsor Bridge area. The operational tempo for the SES remains steady. It will help us immensely if the community will heed the warnings of the SES and follow the evacuation and Watch and Act warnings that we are putting out there. Please keep safe over the following couple of days, and please make sure that you follow our warnings.